Of the 9 days, this is a very serious time, the most serious and sad period of the year, during which we commemorate the destruction of the two holy temples. And this brings about many different questions. If the holy temple was destroyed, does that mean that that's the end of the relationship between the Jewish people and God? And of course, the fact that the Jewish people haven't given up on their relationship with God indicates no. The question is why? If you're only 1/4% of the world's population, as one Muslim wrote me on the response to my blogs, so how can you hold yourself high and say that you're the chosen nation? And the answer to that is that being chosen does not mean being given special privileges. Being chosen means we are chosen for responsibilities. Because we are chosen for those responsibilities have taken their toll. Truthfully, there are many, many tens of millions of Jewish people living amongst the Gentiles who don't even know that they're Jewish. There was a gentleman in Israel who went all over the world seeking where the 10 lost tribes went, and also there were many, many children that were stolen from their parents in the Arab lands and in the Christian lands over the centuries. And as a result of that, there are millions and tens of millions of people in the world who really are from the people of Israel, but don't know this. And this will become apparent when the Messiah comes. Now, just because we're right now 1/4% of the world's population doesn't mean that's the way it's going to be. There will be many tens of millions of Jews in the future who will be clearly identified as such. That being said, being a chosen nation does not mean that you are larger or greater in number than others. As it says in the Torah, you are the least of all of the nations. You're the least in number. And this is something that has happened to us over the centuries. The world has been practicing negative population growth. But that does not diminish the status of the chosen nation. Chosen nation means chosen for responsibility, not chosen for being given rewards, because the rewards of the physical world are just fleeting and they're not worth very much. Of course, everybody would like to have them, but they're not worth anything compared to the rewards in the future, in the world to come. Which brings us to the concept, how do we know we are the chosen nation? Perhaps there are other people that are chosen. After all, there are other religions that are much larger and more successful in bringing adherence to itself than is the Jewish people. First of all, you have to recognize that being Jewish people were not allowed to openly convert the people of Rome. Certainly after Christianity was accepted by the Romans, the Christians did everything within their power to discredit and destroy the Jewish people and destroy Judaism, because they felt that we could show and dangle the scriptures as proof that we really had the originals and they were just a phony. And so they tried their darnest to get rid of us and to kill us and to stop our studies of Torah and so on and so forth. And of course they were unsuccessful over the centuries, just as Islam was in trying to convert all of the Jewish people. Islam went and converted by the sword, as probably did Christianity originally, although many times you have the missions of the Christian converters going and convincing people that they should accept Jesus as their savior and so on and so forth. But primarily, the sword was the method of choice of the peoples of the ancient world as to how to spread their religion. And this was not the method of choice of the Jewish people. You cannot really create true believers and adherents by the sword. The fact that people don't know of anything else does not true believers make, because once a person examines the basis and the principles of the religions truly intellectually, that for the most part the true thinkers would leave their religions. And that's why the original the masses were done in Latin so that the people not know what they really were saying. And the Quran and the people who's teaching the Quran really keep people very, very ignorant. The more ignorant the people are, the less likely they will ask questions and rebel against the teachings that quite often are destructive in nature and destructive to world peace and world cooperation, and just bring about no true benefits to the people promoting it. For example, the Nobel Prize has been given for over 100 years, over a century, for people who excel in the sciences and medicine, economics, bettering the conditions of people. And I ask you, how many Muslims have received the Nobel Prizes? And if you looked at the number of Jews, it's far more than the number of Muslims, even though the Jews are less than 1/100th of the numbers of Muslims. So the fact that Islam exists in abundance does not mean that they have the truth, or that their conditions actually benefit and make the lives of their adherents better. It is only that they control people by the sword and by intimidation. Were they to truly have freedoms and freedom of thought and freedom of conviction, they would behave altogether differently. The Jewish people, on the other hand, we have been subject to having freedom of thought because people try to get us to do their thing, and it would have been much easier for us to have accepted other religions in order to survive. We did not. That shows that we thought about it and we were presented with the alternatives, and yet we stick to our religion, which shows you that ours is a true commitment, whereas the commitment of the Christians and commitment of the Islamists is really not a very, very strong commitment, because were they to be given the same circumstances as we have gone through, they would never have the adherence as we do.